Two facts sit side by side, and the tension between them is impossible to ignore. The first fact is straightforward. In May 2025, a panel of 3 appeal judges upheld the British government's decision to remove Prince Harry's automatic police protection in the United Kingdom. The ruling was unanimous. The court found that the process used by officials was lawful, reasonable, and properly conducted. After years of legal challenges, multiple hearings, and repeated attempts to reverse the decision, the outcome remained unchanged. Harry would not automatically receive the same level of state-funded protection that he once enjoyed as a working royal. The second fact emerged much later. Reports began circulating that Harry and Meghan were preparing for another visit to Britain, potentially accompanied by their children, Archie and Lilibet. According to those reports, extensive security arrangements would be in place, with costs allegedly being covered through private resources connected to King Charles rather than through government-funded programs. On the surface, these facts appear contradictory. If the courts upheld the government's position, and if officials maintained their assessment of Harry's security status, how could a visit requiring substantial protection suddenly become possible? What changed between the legal defeat and the reported travel plans? That question has generated enormous speculation. Many media reports focused on the family drama surrounding the story. Commentators debated tensions between Harry and William. Others discussed the possibility of reconciliation between Harry and his father. Some speculated about public relations benefits, while others questioned whether the visit represented a genuine attempt to rebuild family connections. Yet beneath those headlines lies a more practical question. How does a situation move from legal deadlock to apparent implementation without a formal change in policy? To understand that question, it is important to revisit the history behind the security dispute. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from their roles as working royals in 2020, their circumstances changed dramatically. No longer carrying out official duties on behalf of the Crown, they were treated differently under the system responsible for evaluating protective security. The body overseeing those decisions concluded that automatic taxpayer-funded protection would no longer apply in the same way it once had. Harry strongly disagreed. Over the following years, he launched a series of legal challenges. One argument centered on procedural fairness. Another focused on his desire to personally fund police protection during visits to Britain. He maintained that security concerns remained significant and that he should be allowed to access appropriate protection, even if he paid for it himself. Government officials rejected that proposal. Their position was clear. Specialized police protection was not a service available for private purchase. Allowing wealthy individuals to buy access to such resources could create difficult precedents and undermine established principles governing public security. The courts ultimately agreed. Each legal challenge ended with the same result. The original decision stood. For many observers, that appeared to settle the matter. Yet recent reports suggest the practical reality may be more complicated. According to various accounts, King Charles has shown interest in facilitating visits that would allow him to spend time with his grandchildren. Reports indicate that private funding mechanisms may help address security concerns without altering the government's official position. If accurate, such arrangements would not overturn the court ruling. The legal framework would remain intact. Government policy would remain unchanged. The threat assessments would remain unchanged. What would change is the source of financial support. That distinction matters because it reveals something important about the difference between law and practicality. The courts decide legal questions. Families make personal decisions. Institutions establish rules. Individuals often search for ways to operate within those rules while still achieving desired outcomes. Viewed from that perspective, the situation becomes less about contradiction and more about adaptation. The government says one thing. A family responds in another way. Both realities can exist simultaneously. What makes the story especially interesting is that security has become more than a logistical issue. It has evolved into a symbol of larger tensions surrounding Harry's departure from royal life. For supporters of Harry, the issue represents fairness and protection. They argue that unique risks continue to exist regardless of his current role. For critics, the issue represents accountability. They contend that stepping away from official duties inevitably changes entitlements associated with those responsibilities. Both sides interpret the same events through different lenses. Meanwhile, King Charles occupies a uniquely difficult position. As monarch, he represents an institution governed by rules, traditions, and public expectations. As a father and grandfather, he also faces deeply personal concerns involving family relationships. Balancing those responsibilities has never been simple. Every decision carries consequences. Every gesture attracts scrutiny. Every attempt at compromise generates new questions. The reported visit therefore matters for reasons extending far beyond travel arrangements. It highlights the ongoing struggle between institutional requirements and personal relationships. It demonstrates how legal victories do not always resolve practical challenges. And it reveals how family dynamics can continue influencing events long after courts have delivered their final judgments. Whether the visit ultimately occurs exactly as reported remains to be seen. Whether it leads to meaningful reconciliation is another question entirely. What cannot be denied is that the story has evolved far beyond the original courtroom battles. The legal arguments may be finished, but the broader conflict remains unresolved. At its heart, this is no longer simply a debate about security. It is a story about power, family, responsibility, and the complicated reality of navigating public life inside one of the world's most scrutinized institutions. And, as new developments continue to emerge, the questions surrounding those issues show no signs of disappearing anytime soon. One of the most overlooked aspects of the ongoing debate surrounding Prince Harry's security arrangements is the role played by the royal institution itself. Public discussions often frame the issue as a simple conflict between Harry and the British government. According to that narrative, Harry wanted protection, government officials denied his request, and the courts sided with the state. While that summary captures the legal outcome, it overlooks a deeper and far more complicated question. How much influence does the royal household actually have when issues involving security, access, and family relationships intersect? That question has followed the controversy from the very beginning. During Harry's legal battles, his representatives argued that the process surrounding his security downgrade was not entirely detached from the royal establishment. Their position suggested that palace representatives participated in discussions affecting decisions about protection and risk assessment. The courts ultimately rejected Harry's legal arguments. Judges concluded that the process met the required legal standards, and that the decisions reached by officials were not irrational or unfair. Legally speaking, that should have settled the matter. Yet the claims themselves revealed something important. Even before the recent reports involving King Charles, the royal household was already being discussed as a factor in conversations surrounding Harry's security. That detail often gets lost amid the headlines. Most public coverage focuses on personal conflict. Stories emphasize family arguments, strained relationships, emotional disputes, and alleged rivalries. Those narratives attract attention because they are easy to understand. Audiences naturally gravitate toward stories involving human drama. Institutional influence, by comparison, is less dramatic. It operates quietly. It rarely appears in headlines, yet it often plays a far greater role in determining outcomes. Recent reports regarding Charles's alleged involvement highlight that reality. According to multiple accounts, the king has explored ways to ensure that Harry, Meghan, and their children can safely spend time in Britain. If those reports are accurate, then Charles is not acting as a government official changing public policy. Instead, he is functioning as a family member, using personal resources to facilitate a desired outcome. That distinction is crucial. The courts did not reverse their rulings. Government officials did not announce a policy change. The legal framework remained exactly as it was. What changed was the willingness of an individual with extraordinary resources to help bridge the gap. Viewed from one perspective, that is a simple act of family support. Viewed from another, it demonstrates how influence can shape practical realities even when formal rules remain untouched. This is not unique to the royal family. Across countless institutions, individuals with authority often find ways to accomplish objectives without formally changing regulations. The rules remain the same, but circumstances evolve because influential people choose to act differently. That is why the recent developments attracted so much attention. They appear to confirm that security has never been solely about threat assessments, legal rulings, or government procedures. It has also been about relationships. And relationships are often far more flexible than institutions. The discussion becomes even more interesting when viewed alongside reports regarding Prince William. Several commentators have suggested that tensions between William and Harry remain significant. Stories describing disagreements, frustrations, and conflicting visions for the future of the monarchy have circulated for years. More recently, reports emerged claiming that William remains deeply skeptical about efforts to restore closer family ties. Those reports received enormous media coverage. However, there is an important detail often overlooked by readers. Many of the most dramatic claims originate from a limited number of sources. As stories spread across newspapers, websites, television programs, and social media platforms, they frequently create the impression of broad confirmation. Yet in reality, numerous outlets may simply be repeating the same original report. This phenomenon is common in modern media. One article appears, other publications summarize it, commentators react to it, videos analyze it. Soon the story seems universally confirmed, even though the underlying sourcing remains unchanged. That does not mean the reporting is inaccurate, nor does it mean the claims are true. It simply means that repetition should not automatically be mistaken for independent verification. Understanding that distinction is essential when evaluating stories involving private family interactions. Much of what is reported about royal relationships relies on unnamed sources, second-hand accounts, or individuals claiming knowledge of private conversations. Some reporters possess excellent connections and strong reputations. Others do not. The challenge for audiences is determining where credible reporting ends and speculation begins. That challenge is especially relevant when discussing William's alleged position regarding Harry's future access to royal spaces and family gatherings. Some reports portray William as firmly opposed to expanded reconciliation efforts. Others suggest the situation is more nuanced. The reality remains difficult to verify because the individuals involved rarely comment publicly. As a result, competing narratives continue to flourish. One side emphasizes conflict. The other emphasizes potential healing. Both interpretations attract supporters. Meanwhile, the institution itself continues operating. That institutional perspective often receives less attention than it deserves. For the monarchy, decisions involving Harry are not merely family matters. They also carry constitutional, reputational, and public implications. Every arrangement must balance personal relationships against institutional responsibilities. Every gesture risks creating unintended consequences. Every compromise invites criticism from one side or another. This balancing act explains why seemingly simple decisions often become extraordinarily complicated. Inviting a family member to visit should be straightforward. Within the context of the monarchy, it becomes a matter involving public perception, security logistics, financial considerations, media scrutiny, and political sensitivity. The stakes are dramatically higher than they would be for an ordinary family. That reality helps explain why the debate surrounding Harry's security continues years after the original decision. The issue touches too many competing interests to disappear easily. Government officials defend policy consistency. Harry defends personal safety. Charles prioritizes family relationships. William reportedly focuses on institutional stability. Media organizations seek compelling narratives. The public forms opinions based on incomplete information. All of those forces operate simultaneously, and when they collide, even routine decisions can become major international stories. The result is a situation where legal conclusions exist alongside unresolved personal tensions. The courts delivered their verdicts. The policies remain in place. Yet the human relationships at the center of the story continue evolving. That ongoing evolution, not the courtroom battles themselves, may ultimately determine what happens next. Because while laws can establish boundaries, it is often people, not institutions, who decide how those boundaries are navigated in practice.